So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Jessica Aldred, who's CEO at Purple Patch Arts. So, firstly, Jessica, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Purple Patch Arts, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Mhm. Thank you, Chris. So, yes, I have been the CEO of Purple Patch Charts for a whole 3 months now.
Brilliant.
But I've been with the company for, so I'm new to the CEOing, but I've been with the company for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
And basically, put simply, we do learning differently. So, we provide creative, inclusive, arts-based education for learning disabled adults. And there's a lot of misconceptions around that because a lot of people jump to the conclusion that we're an arts and crafts day service,
Right.
but we're so much more than that.
Yep.
We believe that everybody, regardless of their level of needs, we work with some people with very complex needs,
Yep.
can learn about Shakespeare, about healthy relationships, about LGBTQ plus awareness. We cover lots and lots of different topics. And we believe that using creative and inclusive learning methods that everybody can learn somehow, as
Yep.
long as it's pitched in ways which there are various kind of entry points and people can access the learning in ways which suit them.
Yep.
Also, we've recently heard about a very sobering statistic in that learning disabled people generally their life expectancy is 20 years earlier.
Right.
They pass away 20 years earlier than the general population.
Yep.
And we believe that knowledge is power. And when we don't empower learning disabled adults to have a lot of knowledge and to understand themselves and other people in the world around them, then they remain powerless.
Yep.
So what we're doing here, we keep using this phrase that what we're doing here isn't tea and biscuits. This is really
Brilliant.
meaningful,
Yep.
important work,
Yep.
but alongside it being meaningful and important, it's also really joyful. We have a lot of fun at Purple Patch. And the other thing is that I also own my own business called House of Heyday, from which I teach embroidery and I do
Brilliant.
commissioned work and art for wellbeing workshops as well. So the two sort of meet in some
Yeah.
ways.
Oh, wonderful. What a great, yeah, oh, absolutely wonderful. And as you say, way more than just what people might perceive from the outside, I guess. And how,
Mhm.
how do you, I mean, how are you changing that perception, I guess, might be a question to ask, if that makes sense. What do we need to do maybe today in our conversation to change that perception for people?
Well, learning disabled adults are generally underrepresented,
Yep.
marginalized, and overseen. A lot of people, when they think of disability, they think of mobility issues, they think of wheelchairs, they
Yes.
think of physical accessibility to buildings. And what a lot of people who haven't been exposed to learning disabled people don't consider is that the world is completely inaccessible
Yep.
on every level for
Yep.
learning disabled people. They're just completely overlooked.
Yep.
So what we want to do is break down those barriers from a place of support and education to have a learning disability and to adjust their approaches to include everybody. Because if you include people with learning disabilities, so what I'm talking about here is, for example, if you think of you're going about your life, you might go in a post office, you might go in a taxi, you might go in the supermarket. If there was more awareness, if we have this phrase accessible people, and it's a
Yep.
training that we deliver. If there was more accessible people in the world, then we make the world more inclusive for not just for learning disabled people, but for everybody.
Yep.
So there are various avenues to the work that we do. We have 12 lifelong learning programs across Yorkshire, and
Wow.
we have around 130 people who attend those on a
Wow.
permanent basis of every age,
Yep.
and every background you could imagine.
Yep.
And it's wonderful because some people, we've been going for 16 years, some people have been with us since the day the doors opened. Um, so it's great that we create safe spaces, we have very trusting relationships with people, and we're able to really understand them and their needs and tailor our approach in a
Brilliant.
very person-centered way. But there's also loads of other things we do. So we've done a huge lottery-funded project called Move On Up, which is all about transitions. So it focuses on young learning disabled adults transitioning out of education and into adult services,
Right.
which I didn't know until we went down this road how massive and challenging that
Yeah.
transition is. Partly because we're working within a broken system, adult social care is underfunded, under-resourced, and
Yes.
people slip through the cracks and
Yeah.
people are socially isolated. So this project has allowed us to kind of in our local area get hold of that transition process and guide people through it. It's helped us to bring the wider learning disability community together
Yeah.
in our area, but also empower people to learn the skills, express themselves, understand that they have choice, that it's okay to not want to do something and to say no, and to empower people to have autonomy.
Yeah.
And a lot of learning disabled people don't have that. And they come to us and being given choice is something that's new to them. So it's
Yeah.
breaking down those barriers as well and providing the skills. So that work is about transitions focused on education into adult services, but actually it's about any transitions. It's giving people the skills to transition when they move house or when they
Yeah.
suffer of bereavement or, there's a big change in any big
Yes.
change in their life. We also have an incredible person called Melissa who did a PhD in the impact of our work. We call her Dr. Purple, Melissa Kirby. And she showed us really meaningfully what the impact of our work is, which has completely formed and given us clarity around the direction that we're going in. But the other thing that came off the back of Melissa's PhD is the Purple Research Group, which is a group of our participants who are literally bridging the gap between research, academia, and learning disability. Because in the world of research, learning disabled voices are largely not included.
Right.
So they've continued beyond Melissa's PhD and they help make research accessible for learning disabled people, but they also go out and get involved in research projects as a cohort of learning disabled people. So
Wow.
they're just about to start one about disordered eating. Um, we also have a couple of other things. We have a steering group, so we're moving much more towards being participant led,
Yep.
and wanting them and their lives and their wants and needs and struggles to drive the
Yes.
direction of the organisation.
Yes.
So we have a steering group that sit between sort of us and our board of trustees.
Yep.
So they're involved in the governance. And we also, I know before we started recording, we talked a bit about the pandemic, didn't we? We have a family and carer quiz night once a month that's still going strong post-pandemic.
Brilliant.
And it's a small part of what we do, but it's also really essential because the families and carers of learning disabled people are also overlooked,
Yes.
underrepresented, don't have opportunities to, socialize and
Yep.
get out there and do things that they might want to do. Of course, I'm generalizing a little bit, but the people that come to our family and carer quiz nights have told us that it's a lifeline for them to have
Yeah.
that social time while they're still at home. They can still care for the person that they care
Yep.
for. And it's wonderful that we've been able to continue it.
Brilliant.
So yes, there's a lot of streams to what we do.
I can see, and that's wonderful. And we spoke before we started the interview that I'm pretty sure I came over to see you guys when you were over originally in Bradford, and
Yes.
I remember being completely wowed. So I'd
Oh,
urge anybody that's local to you or is interested in what you do to. I don't know how the best way to pop in, etc., but I'm sure we can cover that later.
yep.
Brilliant. So, if we look back a little bit to start with, Jessica, if you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to join Purple Patch Arts, that would be wonderful.
This is a very random story, as a lot of my stories
Good. I like random.
are.
Random's good.
So I trained at the Royal School of Needlework. Um, So I like to use the phrase classically trained in embroidery because it kind of is a bit like,
Yeah,
being a classically trained musician. It's
brilliant.
steeped in history and tradition. Um, so I trained at the Royal School of Needlework and then went off, and for a period of time I was working in costume at the Royal Opera House. The Royal School of Needlework is in Hampton Court Palace. So, you know, by the way, this is going to make me sound like I've grown up in a mansion surrounded by royalty. This has not been my life at all. I've just got lucky along the way, Chris.
Brilliant.
Um, but yeah, I trained at the Royal School of Needlework, ended up working for a period of time at the Royal Opera House. And actually, I, at that time, looked for a bit of grit and reality. And I landed upon a fantastic charity called Fine Cell Work, who teach needlework to prison inmates.
Oh, wow.
And I was with them on a voluntary basis, although I did lots of work for them over a 3-year period. And my main work that I did with them was teaching inmates in Wandsworth Prison,
Wow.
male inmates in
Right.
Wandsworth Prison.
Goodness.
And that experience showed me in a really tangible way the power of creativity
Yes.
to support well-being.
Yeah.
So I worked with inmates who were literally transformed through embroidery, and
Amazing.
it's something that's kind of missed out in the art therapy world
Yeah.
largely. But there's something really meditative about it. It allows you to connect with yourself. You're growing your skills and your confidence through it. It's a vehicle for kind of connecting with others as well. And I saw this and I thought, this is amazing. This is where the magic's at. It's
Yes.
it's what this can do for people.
Yes.
And so as my career went on, I intentionally looked for opportunities where I could do that, where I could use the arts and creativity as a vehicle for learning and growth and supporting
Yeah.
well-being.
Yeah.
And whilst my training is in embroidery, and I still do it professionally, my interest is in all the arts. I love dance and music and drawing and painting and writing. I love it all.
Brilliant.
So in my work at Purple Patch, I've been able to kind of dip my toe in everything, and it's really fun for that.
Amazing. So I'm guessing when you were growing up, did you have this sort of way forward planned out for yourself, or did you have other things planned at that point?
I always knew that I wanted to be an artist,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I was born in Halifax, although I don't sound like I was because I've lived in so many other places. And as a child, we moved further and further south because of my dad's work, where we went where the work was, which was how we ended up near to Hampton Court Palace. We lived
Yeah.
in Watford actually.
Yep.
And so I always knew that I wanted to be an artist, but when it came to thinking about going to university, I thought I don't want to go and do fine art or fashion or whatever I decide to do and end up being one of thousands with those qualifications when
Yeah.
there's so few viable jobs in the arts.
Yes.
So I decided to give myself some time to consider my options. And during that time, I came across the Royal School of Needlework, who had an apprenticeship at that time and only took on 6 to 8 people in a year group.
Right.
So I don't think anyone wakes up and says, I'd like to be an embroiderer, apart from maybe my daughter. Um, but I recognised that it was an opportunity for me to have a really intense period of time learning skills to a professional standard and be one of a handful of people
Yeah.
who can, operating at that level. And I've been very, very lucky to have the career that I've had, both in terms of embroidery. I mean, it's taken me to all sorts of wild and wonderful places, fine cell work being one of them. I've worked on royal commissions. I've worked abroad, I've taught well, extensively in the UK, but in America and Dubai as well. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been amazing.
Absolutely. Goodness. Yeah. Oh,
Where do you go now?
where do you go now? Well, I'm going to take you back to Purple Patch Art specifically, and I
Yes,
appreciate you said you've been CEO for 3 months, but you've been there for nine years.
I
So
have. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm keen to know what the biggest issues you guys have had to overcome over that period of time in terms of the development of the organisation.
Oh, gosh. It's really tough for small charities.
Yeah,
The charity sector in general is very, very challenging. And I would say it's become even more challenging in the past
yeah,
couple of years.
yeah,
Also, there isn't much focus on disability at government level.
yeah,
And I understand why focus is where it is. You know, there is a lot of support for mental health, men's mental health, food banks. You know, of course, I want people to have their basic needs met. So I do understand that focus needs to be in specific areas. But that being said, it has always felt like learning disabled people are completely overlooked.
yeah,
And I think part of the reason that they're overlooked is because they're not causing any trouble in society. So that's a real challenge for us. We have 12 lifelong learning programs and about, as I said, about 130 people who attend those. They pay to attend them. Most of that money comes through the three local authorities that we work
right,
under, but we keep our fees as low as we possibly can
right,
to make it accessible for as many as we can. So what that means is that we have a significant deficit to find every year.
yeah,
And finding that, you know, it's hit and miss. Some years we've done really, really well. Funding opportunities give us the chance to try out new ideas, pilot different ways of working, grow as an organization. And we've had some great opportunities, but also funding remains one of the
yeah.
biggest challenges.
I can imagine. And it feels like I don't know to be sure, but it feels like the funding landscape is changing quite significantly in terms of being able to continue to raise funds.
Yes, I think, I mean, I'll be honest, Chris, I am a bit bored of talking about the pandemic, but it's
No,
relevant
that's
as
good.
well, isn't
Yeah,
it? It is
yeah,
relevant. But during the pandemic, we were okay
yeah.
financially because we moved onto Zoom really, really fast, and
Yep,
60% of our participants came with us, which was incredible. And we
brilliant.
just kept going, and
Yep,
therefore we kept being paid for the work that we were doing, which was amazing. Um, Post-pandemic, there was a lot of money available. I'm sure
yep,
you know this,
yep.
because funding, you know, had sort of stopped
Yes,
largely for that period of time.
yep,
But then once we got over that and into the cost of living crisis, we've ended up now in a situation where there is very little money available and a huge amount of competition.
yes,
So often we're sending, you know, funding applications, which to my mind are strong funding applications,
yep.
and being told, you know, we've had 4,000 applications, 30 of which will be successful. It's
Yes.
tough
Yeah,
out there.
yeah,
But I also completely believe in what we do and why we
yep,
do it, and that we can affect change.
yeah.
So we press on.
Got to do it. Absolutely. But
Absolutely. We'll never give up.
the mission is more important than anything else. No, I totally get that, and I think it's bang on. And looking back over those 9 years and working with the organisation, what are some of you things you've learned about growing and running a charity?
The last 2 years in particular have been really challenging for us.
Yeah,
And the year before last, we ended up in a difficult financial position because of lack of funding.
yeah,
And we had to make some big changes. And that was really, really difficult. Some of that was um, three people took voluntary redundancy.
yeah,
Then we became a smaller team that had to take on additional
yeah,
workloads and keep everything afloat. And some of the things that we've experienced, certainly if I focus on the past couple of years, have been really challenging and at times very painful.
yeah,
But also, when things got really difficult for us, it forced us to look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why we're doing it and where we're going with it. And I mean, from like the tiniest processes, could we make this system better? Are we doing this in the simplest and, most efficient way
Yeah,
we can? To the much bigger picture, where are we going with all of this?
yeah,
So while we've faced a lot of challenges over recent years, it's also put us in a position now where we're much more clearer
yeah. Brilliant,
on what we're doing and where we're going.
brilliant, brilliant. And I think you're probably aware we're a bit business and an executive coaching organisation. I'm
Mhm.
keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
There's there's a few people actually who've had a big impact on me. One of them is accessible for all, and I would recommend her to anybody who is a small business owner or is considering starting a small business. Her name is Leona, and her business is called Joyful Selling for Creatives.
Wow.
And I followed Leona for a number of years before I got in touch. I'm sure this is quite common with coaching. Before I got
Yes.
in touch and said, I need your help. I'd kind
Absolutely.
of built that trust from watching her from a distance for a long, long time.
Yes.
And over the past year, I think, maybe a year and a half, I've worked with her in a more direct, meaningful way.
Brilliant.
And she has really helped me to always work from a place of authenticity
Yep.
and to find the joy in what can be really hard and really challenging sometimes. Other people that have been fantastic are Fran, who's our outgoing CEO. So Fran was the CEO of Purple Patch for 8 years.
Right.
And I'm so lucky because she's still here. She's mentoring me into my new role.
Great.
So she's still kind of in the background, but she's a person that I've looked to for guidance and inspiration
Yes.
over the past few years. And I couldn't have taken the baton from anybody better. And I certainly couldn't have taken the baton from anybody who could have done a better job of organising the finances, which is fantastic.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And whether it's from the people you mentioned or other sources, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business, success, life in general that you can share with us?
Yes. One of the things that I've realised, certainly this year, after facing a lot of personal challenges as well, is that when life is really, really hard and I feel broken, it's like a portal opens then. And as I move through that, I've realised that I'm able to be a lot stronger and a lot more resilient than I ever gave myself credit for.
Brilliant.
And somebody said to me a couple of years ago, you don't learn skipping through the slow-mo meadow. The learning happens when you're on your hands and knees
Yeah.
on the bathroom floor, metaphorically speaking, of
Yes.
course. And I think it's easy to fall into worrying about or dwelling on or wishing certain things hadn't happened. But actually, I realised that without all the hard stuff that I've dealt with over recent years, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, I can totally sort of empathise with that. It's a difficult lesson to learn at the time, and I honestly hate the phrase character building because I think at the point at which people say, "Oh, it's character building," you think, "Well, yeah, I'd skip character building right now, thank you."
Mm.
But in hindsight and over time and embedding things and reflecting on things, yeah, we learn. I guess we learn more from the challenges than we do the successes. Uh,
Yeah.
but I would much rather, but I would much rather back somebody that's had challenges and learn from them than someone that's never failed. You know,
Yes.
there's so much less learning in just permanent success. And we work with we work with an athletics coach, a guy called Frank Dick, he's been sort of a 30, 40 year career in athletics coaching primarily. And one thing he said a couple of years ago that always stood out, and he said if it makes sense to review things that went wrong. That's the sort of the black box thinking of didn't go right. What do we, why did it not go right, and how do we fix it for the future? That makes sense. But he also said if we don't review our successes and why they happened, we're in danger of it being luck. And I thought that was really
Mm,
interesting because it does make sense to look at the challenges and how we overcame them, but it's also good to spend maybe not as much time, but enough time to go, what went right there? That really worked. How can we do that better? How can we use that to do other things better, if that makes sense?
yeah, I definitely need to work on that. As an organisation, I very much celebrate our successes, but as an individual, I just kind of go, next. I
Yeah,
don't really look at my when things have gone
no,
well.
no, that is an entrepreneurial feature I've found over
Mm,
time. The entrepreneurial people, we're always looking at what's next to be done rather than what has been done. Rather, what's next, it's always and one of the things we do with the business owners and leaders that we work with is we get them together every quarter. I'd love you to come along if you'd like to in December, but we come. The afternoon is about planning. It's planning the next quarter and what goals we're going to set and how we're going to achieve them. But the morning is um, it's learning and celebration. And the celebration is so important because for me, if we don't celebrate, we're not embedding that success. So celebration builds resilience because
yes.
when we look back to, oh, hell, that's gone wrong. Yes, but what about all the 10 things that went right? If we're not focusing on that, we're not building resilience. The thing about what's left to do, I was told a story by a friend of mine who's a public speaker, and he goes all around the world speaking. And he said he was speaking, I think it was in New Zealand. He was like the MC of a big dinner, and but the keynote speaker was the first person, I believe, and I must just search this up, but to climb Everest with two artificial limbs, which, yeah, I mean, climbing it full stop is bad.
Wow.
And so like first person feet, never be, you can only be the first ones. But what an achievement because climbing it with four good limbs is most difficult. And I remember Phil saying to him as they were just eating their dinner before this guy spoke, he said, "What was it like when you got to the top?" And this guy said, well, it was about 2 minutes of absolute, adulation is the wrong word, celebration,
Hmm.
euphoria is the word I was thinking of.
Yes.
We've done it, we've got there. And then he said, and then I thought, what's next? And I sort of think if you're going to put so much effort and put your life at risk to do that, more than 2 minutes of celebration is justified, in my opinion.
Yes.
And yet you're right, too many people don't, and I think it is so important to build that level of resilience, and and our teams need it. And I think you referred to that yourself, that you celebrate well with the team and acknowledge
Yes.
that's out there, but we've got to do it for ourselves too.
Absolutely. I mean, this is nowhere near as impressive as the story that you just told, but in 2011, I wrote a book
Wow.
called Adventures in Needlework. I'd love to write more books when I'm beyond my CEO in years, if I'm honest. But I remember working so hard, so working full time at the same time as writing this book, and then it turned up in the post, and I was like, "Is that it?
Oh.
All that work, and that's it?"
Yeah, you definitely need to learn some celebration there, Jessica, I think.
I'll work on it.
Come to our next session because we definitely.
Okay.
Because what's interesting about it, actually, the sessions themselves is what's great is we have entrepreneurial people sharing their successes, and it's other people going, "That's amazing," and we get people going, "Well, I hadn't thought about it like that," till you said it.
Yeah.
That whether it's onboarding 10 people in a month, or growing the sales of the business, or overcoming a problem that happened, and it's just like often we need that external view to actually
Hmm.
change our own personal view of it, if that makes sense. It's sort of we're going, oh yeah,
It
we'll do
makes
that.
complete sense. And I wish that we did more of that as human
Ab-
beings, as a society. Everybody,
Absolutely.
there's so much hate out there and so
Yeah.
much cancel culture and tearing each other down and people trying to get ahead and ruthlessness. I think it's got worse now that we live in such a digital world. So to have
Yeah.
opportunities for human connection, and I just wish people celebrated each other more as well. And
Yes. Me too.
Yeah,
I think it's a massive thing. I think it can be seen as something that's sort of, yeah, it isn't important, but it so is, in my opinion. It so is
yeah.
at so many different levels. So, similarly to quotes, do you have any favourite books or podcasts that you can
Oh, do you
recommend?
know, I thought of a couple actually while you were talking. One of them is How to Fail by Elizabeth Day. That's a
Great.
podcast.
Yep.
It's
Brilliant.
great. I going back to my the learning happens when you're on your hands and knees on the bathroom floor.
Yep.
There's an incredible life-changing book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow
Oh,
by
wow.
Francis, hang on, I've got it written down somewhere here. Francis Weller. And it's actually a book about the rituals of grief,
Oh,
but
wow.
there is so much wisdom in it, and you could apply it to anything,
Yep.
really. And it's about that quote kind of sums it up, really. It's about, the challenging parts of life are where the deepest rivers flow and where the kind of most meaningful learning happens.
Yep.
It's amazing. Another one that I've actually been listening to the audiobook, and I'm on the second round of it because I need to just make sure I've taken it all in. It's
Brilliant.
a book called Women Living Deliciously by Florence Given.
Brilliant.
And she talks a lot about the things that we've just talked about, you see somebody and you love their shoes, go and tell them that you love their shoes. You'll make their day. It's about living authentically. It's about kind
Yes.
of going against societal expectations and
Brilliant.
remembering that we are here to experience life, not to just work ourselves into the ground, says me.
Yes,
With a job and
mirror
a
time.
business. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Mi- Mirror time, it sounds like. You look, so, and speaking of that, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
I think I've talked a little bit about this already, and it's really the resilience that I've
Yeah.
built. It's taken me, I'm 43. I'm hesitating because it's my birthday very soon, so I'll be
Ah,
44 very soon. And it's taken me until about now to actually recognize that I can deal with difficult things
yes.
and to believe in myself. Um, and to know that the most important relationship that we ever have is the relationship that we have with ourselves. So we should be cultivating those relationships. They're very important. And
Absolute
to just stop talking about myself negatively, in my mind. Taken me
100%. I'm
years.
trying to think. There is a book that I can't recommend. I can't think of it right now, but I'll drop you a line on that one. Specifically around self talk. That it's
Mhm.
how to manage self talk.
I was told by a counselor years ago that I was bullying myself. The way that I spoke to myself in my mind, I would never say things like that to anybody
To anybody
else.
else?
And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. And she
Yeah.
taught me to that narrative that you have in your own mind. She taught me to sort of talk to myself like I would to a friend. And it was genuinely transformative.
Great, love it.
It didn't happen immediately. It took some work,
Yeah,
but I'm much kinder to myself than I used to be.
good, good. And I do think going back to celebration, that's part of it. Is
Mm,
it's the evidence of why we shouldn't talk to ourselves like that. Not just the way we talk, but what we talk about. It's like, if we're going to talk negatively about ourselves, we've also got to sort of, well, what's the evidence of that? Well, actually, this is what we've done. This is what we've achieved. And
yes.
as I say, I think when we do the sessions and get people together and celebrate, it really is great to have that external reference of people going, "That's incredible. That's
Mhm.
incredible." Not, yeah, and we've had a few of those sort of light bulb moments where people have gone, "Yeah, I didn't really think of it like that," and
Yes.
go, "But how can you? You know, it's like, how can you not think of it like that? It's an incredible achievement." Um, Wow. Okay. Well, interesting enough. One of the phrases we've got in Action Coach that define a true business organization, etc., is a commercial profitable enterprise, whatever it would be, and charities
Hmm.
obviously, while you're
Hmm.
non-profit, the money you make can go back into doing more great stuff. But
Yeah.
the key thing about it, commercial profit enterprise that works without its leaders. What are your thoughts on that definition?
I like it. I was thinking earlier when I was preparing to talk to you about the fact that I think that the best leaders are probably the people that don't set out to be leaders
Yes.
and who recognize that they don't know everything and
Yep.
that nor do they have to know everything. They're literally a guardian. That's how I think of myself, really. I think of myself as kind of the guardian of Purple Patch through its next
Yes.
chapter. But
Yes.
it doesn't begin and end with me, nor would I ever want it to.
No.
And I think it's really important to recognize the skills and the qualities of the people around you
Yeah.
and to empower them to work to their
Absolutely.
potential. So
Absolutely.
I'm on board with that way of thinking. I think that
Brilliant.
if you can do that, then essentially you can step away and everything would be okay. And I also really, really want Purple Patch to survive long beyond me.
Yep. I think it's Richard Branson talks about, actively employing people that are better than him
Yes.
in the areas that they need to work. And it is the challenge I find with a lot of people I work with at the moment is we're naturally and culturally taught that our success is based on how hard we work.
Hmm.
And that's very true to a certain level. But if we get to a point where we can't work any harder anymore, we're doing 24/7. I know I haven't quite done 24/7, but I went through a period of sort of 100-hour weeks for 3 years. If we can't do any more, then we become the bottleneck.
Yes.
We become the bottleneck of the success and growth of our organization. So the more we can create something that can work without us, and our job being, especially as CEOs and leaders, I believe, is to support everyone else doing a great job. We become a support function rather than a directorial function, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. When I was preparing for the CEO role, I was sent a great article. I might be able to find it and send it to you, Chris.
Please.
And it was about being a multiplier, not a fixer.
Yep.
And that has really stayed with me
Brilliant.
because my default is to want to make everything all right for everybody. And especially now that I'm the CEO role, I
Yep.
can't do that anymore. There's only one of me, and I need to kind of step back and and be responsible for the wider organization. I can't be fixing all the day-to-day stuff. But what I can do is to empower the staff that are around me to
Absolutely. How can I help you do your best job?
absolutely,
And
yeah.
when and part of that is when people, well, we're there to support. When people come with problems, we to to create something that is a multiplier for me is great. And what you're doing about it, which you can take those words and consider them to be a bit, but it is like great, but that's your job. So what are you going to do about it? But how can I help you do that? I'm not here to
Mm.
fix it. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you and support you, so you can develop. I think it was there's a lady called Jennifer Byrne who has twice been at an event called Climb in Leeds. It's a 2-day event for all businesses and typically high growth businesses, etc. Not particularly important, but one of the things she said that I saw so many CEOs and business owners and leaders sort of take almost a step back when she said it, because she said in the US when they so she sorry she's Jennifer Bird, so she's ex CTO at Microsoft going back a few years, and now she invests and helps other businesses grow. But she
Right.
said in the US when they recruit C-suite executives, they actively test them on their ability not to do things. And
Oh, that's powerful.
yes, it's a little bit of a let me reflect on that one. Um,
Mm.
the meaning I took from it is our job is to get other people to do stuff. That's our, we are guiding, we are, pulling strings is probably the wrong word, but it's like, and so if my first thought, but I think most people that are successful have built their success on how hard they work and what they did rather than, and this is very much there for a mindset and identity shift to great, how do I empower, how do I multiply the value of the people they've got by being
Mhm.
their support, not their fixer. From
Yes. Another great analogy that I use all the time is don't squeeze the bar of soap. And
right,
that you can apply this to any area of your life. So,
yes,
you're holding a wet bar of soap.
yes,
If you try and hold it, if you try and
yes,
squeeze it, it just slips through your fingers. There are
yep,
so many times I've thought about this in different areas of my life. But if you hold it lightly, you can hold
Yeah,
it. And
absolutely.
I think of holding Purple Patch in that way.
Yep,
I'm responsible, I'm accountable. The job I do is really important
yep,
and holds a lot of responsibility.
yep,
But I want to hold that bar of soap lightly
yep.
and multiply and empower the people around me
Brilliant.
who are incredible.
Love it. Brilliant. Yeah, because what's interesting, if you take that step further, is if we're not careful, if we aren't the supporter, we're the person that tries to fix it, then we're actually holding those people back,
Yes,
in my opinion.
absolutely.
We're doing it for them, then
Yeah,
we're holding them back. And therefore we're not helping people by saying, well, let me do that. Let me help you with that. Or you should do it this way. It should be, for me, what I would consider to be a coaching approach of, great, what are the options to make that happen?
yes,
What can you do rather than what can I do to help? I can help you, but help you find your way rather than do it for you.
yeah.
Brilliant. So, looking forward then, Jessica, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think the focus for me at the moment is stability and sustainability in
Yep.
every area of my life.
Yes. Right.
There's a lot. This year has been brutal. I don't know how it's been for you and anyone else out there, but my goodness me, 2025 has been brutal. So in so many ways. So yeah, stability and sustainability are certainly the kind of short-term
Yep.
focuses, personally and professionally. Um, we I've mentioned the fact that we've done a lot of work over recent years to kind of define what we're doing and where we're going, and we refer to it as our future direction. So our future direction encompasses three main things. One of them is embedding reflection into all of the work we do, and the way that we're doing that is by using Kolb's experiential learning model, which is basically a model that supports learning and promotes using reflection and taking. So if you learn something and then you apply it to the wider context of your life,
Yep.
then you're going to retain it, and that becomes a skill that you can go out there and use.
Yep.
So, and as far as we know, and if anybody out there knows differently, feel free to get in touch and let me know. But as far as we know, nobody has ever used Kolb's experiential learning model in relation to learning disabled adults.
Okay.
So it's really innovative and we're very excited about it.
Yep.
Um, Also, we've recently done participant consultation. So I talked a bit about being more driven by the wants, needs, lives, struggles of our participants.
Yep.
And the number one thing that came out of the participant consultation, so we asked every single one of our participants three key questions in lots of interactive, multisensory ways. And the number one thing that came from almost every program was social connections. It's so important. So that's another one of our key areas as we move forwards to kind of really develop the opportunities that we provide for those social connections. And then my mind has gone blank. There's three parts to the future direction. There's reflection,
Yep.
social connection, and what's the other one?
It's the other one. That's okay.
The other one.
We'll do that in part two. We'll come back and
Okay.
I think it's Bob Mortimer would say, yeah, another one is likewise named.
My daughter had me up at 4 a.m. That's my excuse.
It's all good. It's absolutely all good. I mean, clearly you've got a lot going on.
We've got a lot going on, yeah.
And it's wonderful to hear that you're addressing it with in a positive manner, and you're relying on your resilience to make it happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it'd be great. It'd be really great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see how that progression is
Oh,
happening.
that would be wonderful.
And you could give us
Yes.
a third option.
And then yes, I'm going to leave it as a cliffhanger.
There we are, cliffhanger. Dun, dun, dun. We'll wait.
So anyone that listens is going to have to come
Yeah.
back for the next installment to find what the other part of
There,
the future
there,
direction is.
there we are.
We've
We've got a
planned
plan.
it.
We've got a plan. Well, Jessica, it's been fascinating to talk to you. It really has been. And
Oh,
congratulations on everything you're doing. And wish you the best of luck.
thank you.
For anyone that is watching that would like to get in touch, for whatever reason, contact you about what you do, how you're doing, how they can help, how they can donate. What's the best way of getting in touch with you or Purple Patch Arts?
Yeah, so our website is purplepatcharts.org. All the information about our work and various contact details are on there. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Purple Patch Arts. And yeah, we would love it if people gave us a follow and if anybody wanted to get in touch and ask any questions, the door is open, so to speak.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, look,
Thank you for having me.
you're very, very welcome. Thank you for coming on. It really has been fascinating, and yeah, we'll focus on part two later on, sometime next year, I guess. So, but for now, thank you so much for your
Could you end it with the EastEnders Duff Duffs?
dump, dump, dump. We can do that. Dump, dump,
Doof, 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 doof,
dump. Jessica, thank you so much.
doof. Thank you.